Salam, namaste, it's your boy Abhay, and today we're going to find out how to write a first-class university essay. Firstly, big caveat, I'm so sorry for my US fans because I have loads of US fans, don't I? But this is going to be a UK-based only, or this is going to be applicable for UK universities. Specifically, I myself am a third-year undergraduate student at King's College London studying global health and social medicine. And so, sorry, I don't have a script. I promise, I'm not looking at a script. I have everything in my head. There's no script. Ultimately, my degree is very much a humanities degree. And so the tips I'll be providing you today, the tips and little tricks, okay, will be applicable for any UK university humanities degree. And so I know that the sciences, for example, of how they write essays are very, very different. I have a few friends who do, a Bachelor of Science, and how they write essays are completely different from how a Bachelor of Arts, a BA student, would write their own essays. In this video, I really want to get into nitty-gritty and the very realistic tips and very applicable tips for how you can get that extra marks to help you get to a first, and if not, at least at the bare minimum, a high 2-1. When you have to write an essay, firstly, you have to do all the research that's involved. In this video, I'm not going to go into how to find your research notes to then go into writing the essay. That could be potentially a separate video, but I think that content is very, very different from the content I want to provide in this video. Okay, so straight into the introduction. For the introduction, the most important thing is to lay out the topic of the essay. If the essay is about mental health, for example, you want to define what mental health is. You want to say a statistic about mental health. You want to say, oh, mental health is this, and you define it. Bonus point here, all right, something that will give you that extra oomph in your essay, all right, all those extra brownie points. Define that key term using core readings, or the readings from that module. Readings that your professor has given you, use those to help you define mental health. Because from that, the professor knows that you have done their reading. They can see it. They can see that you've done their reading, and they'll be very happy that you've read their stuff, and they will give you the extra points you need. Okay guys, so this is going to be my first example essay that I'll show you. So this is for a ethics class that I had, Values, Ethics and Global Public Health. And so the title of this essay, Analyzing the Value of Paternalism in Access to Experimental Drugs for Terminally Ill Patients in the US. When you first start writing your introduction, you want to outline the topic. So in a broad sense, paternalism denotes complex power relations in which groups who possess certain knowledge and information make assertions towards others in society, typically the less powerful, determining how they should act and live their lives. Okay, and so as you can see, I've broken down my introduction into 2 paragraphs, and I'll go into that, but I'm just showing you that in the beginning of my essay, I really just do outline the topic. And so obviously the key words in this essay are paternalism. That is a concept of ethics in healthcare. And so the first part of my introduction is just outlining and situating that topic and really telling the reader what I'll be discussing about in this essay. But you must tell the reader what your core argument is. It's so important. If you don't have a core argument, it's going to be so difficult for you to get the extra points you need, because the core argument really helps organize your essay and also helps you get those critical analysis points, which I'll talk about later on in this video. Unless the professor specifically says, do not have a core argument. If it's like an annotated bibliography essay where you're just analyzing different sources and there's no argument, then that's fine. That's a different type of assignment. But for any critical essay, you always want to have a core argument. And so in this essay, I say my core argument, and I'll read it out. This essay will argue that in this particular public health issue, paternalism is beneficial for preventing patient harm and for safeguarding the health of the general population. This sentence is the most important sentence in my essay, because I'm telling the reader exactly what I am arguing, and the rest of my essay, right, all the main body, all the conclusion, all right, is to do with this sentence. After you've made your core argument, okay, then you need to tell the reader how you're going to argue this. The most important thing you note here, rather than the actual content, is that I've given the argument in the first, this essay will argue, and then I say in order to argue this, I will first do this, okay, and then I say what I'm going to do, and then secondly I'll do this, okay, and then I say secondly what I'm planning to do, and then lastly, or thirdly, I'll do this. And then this, you realize, will be the structure of your remaining essay. And so when you really signpost your core argument and saying that this essay will argue, and it will argue it by doing 1, 2, 3, you can then use that 1, 2, 3 as your main body points, okay? And that really does help you outline, delineate, a good essay structure. Let's move on to the main body. With the main body, I would recommend, and this is just a personal choice, I would recommend on average having 3 main points. And that's on average, okay? And people will be coming at me, hey, I used more or I used less. I think between 2 and 4 is realistically okay, but obviously you can't have one. You can't have one main body paragraph, all right? Unless it's a very, very small essay, but I don't see that being the case. And I think having more than 4 main paragraph points really convolutes your essay. You want to make your point, whatever that point of the paragraph is. You want to provide evidence, either in the form of a reference from a book or an article, or even a quote. Quotes are good, but don't use too many quotes. And then finally, you want to analyze all of that. But you want to link your analysis at the end of the paragraph back to your core argument, and that's how you get that critical analysis mark. This second essay that I'm showing you about pharmaceuticalization, and I just want to show you the idea that these 2 essays are different in the sense that I didn't actually define pharmaceuticalization in the introduction like I defined paternalism in the introduction of my other essay. And so I realistically used my definition of pharmaceuticalization to be, and I've incorporated it in my first major paragraph point, my main body paragraph point, in history of pharmaceuticalization from medicalization. See, very signposty, all right? First I'll do that, and it's the same. So the reader really knows exactly what I'm talking about. I really put all my definitions here, all right? I define medicalization, okay? And then I use readings from my module. And so this author is actually one of the professors in my department. And so I'm really getting all those extra brownie points because you want to be using readings from your module. And if there's a professor that has written anything to do with the topic you're writing about, use that reading because the department that you're in, I'm sure, will love it. You can decide whether you want to define your core arguments in the introduction or secondary, but you want to definitely define it, and more importantly, you want to define it with core readings or readings from your module. All right, some bonus point tips, okay? How to get that extra mark or 2, and how you can get that is by this key word that my professors love to use: critical engagement or critical analysis. Within each main body paragraph, along with providing the key, the key point, the evidence, and the analysis, you want to go back and forth between 2 points. And so realistically, it's going to be looking like key point, evidence, key point, another key point, evidence, and then analysis. In that last bit of analysis, you essentially tell the reader that, look, my first point, all right, is more important or has more weight because of the following reasons, and this, outweighs my second point, again for these reasons, and therefore this helps to show, or this argues the case of my core argument. I hope that made sense, but if it didn't, don't worry, here's an example. What I have done in this essay, which is also another alternative, is that I have 3 sections of 3 main body paragraphs. I have the first one, the history of pharmaceuticalization from medicalization. The second one, the benefits. And then the third one was the shortcomings, right? And so my main argument here is that, yes, the theory is beneficial, and I've shown that from the first 2 points, the main paragraphs, and then where I talk about the idea that actually there's a different perspective, I've actually incorporated that into my core argument, and actually pharmaceuticalization has bad aspects to it, and I have an entire section which sort of opposes or goes against my main core argument, which is that pharmaceuticalization is good. And so there's 2 ways of doing it, and you can have within each paragraph, you can you know, have the contradiction, like, you know, going between, you know, for and against points of your main argument, or you can have it in sort of a macro scale where you have 2 sections that are for and 1 section that is against your main argument. And having this back and forth in every main body paragraph really shows the reader that you are analyzing something rather than just describing it. So with regards to making sure that in every single paragraph you do not end with a quote and you actually end with your analysis, especially the main body paragraphs, I thought I'd quickly show you an example here. As you can see, my second to last, this is the main body paragraph, and so my second to last sentence, all right, and a lot of the main part, the main chunk of the main body paragraph is the evidence, all right? And let's just say that this last sentence, all right, you don't want to end with this, all right? You never want to end with a sentence that, you know, is your evidence, that has a quotation, that it's using a reference, that's providing evidence. But this evidence does say that this communitarian stance looks towards a common good and emphasizes the mutual goals, ideals, and values shared by the general public. Again, this content is irrelevant, so if you don't understand it, it's fine. The idea here, I'm just saying, is that don't end with your evidence, state your evidence, and then end your paragraph, your main body paragraph, with analysis and a link to your core argument. Lastly, going into the conclusion section, all right, we've done the introduction, we've banged that out, we've banged out the main body, now the conclusion. In the introduction, you say, this essay will argue, all right? Hold that thought. In the conclusion, you tell the reader, this essay has argued ... And you literally just say the same thing you said in the introduction. Whatever your argument was, you just put it in your conclusion and change it into the past tense, all right? Maybe change some of the words around, rejiggle your sentence, but you're essentially saying exactly what you said in the introduction in the conclusion. Do not add any new ideas or concepts in your conclusion. That is a big no-no, all right? Okay guys, and so regarding the conclusion, I thought it would be perfect if I just put my intro and conclusion back to back so you can see this whole idea of mirroring. Whatever I say in the introduction is in the present tense or in the future tense, and then whatever's in the conclusion is just past tense. And so this assignment, in the introduction, I say this assignment will present a critical discussion of pharmaceuticalization. I'm still slurring my words. I have spoken a lot today, my bad. And then I say to conclude, all right, this essay has delivered a critical discussion of pharmaceuticalization, analyzing its benefits and shortcomings with relation to its emergence in the global south. So everything that's read, I've literally just paraphrased and changed the tense. Then you've got the green section, which is my argument. So this essay will argue this. And then the green, literally just in the past tense for my conclusion, the paper argued that. Okay, so it's just changing the tense here. And then for the blue section, for the introduction, you might have to pause the video just if you want to read it so you get a better idea of the content, but I'm just quickly zooming through this part. But for the blue, you know, in order to make this argument, which is the green sentence, I will first do this, and then I'll second do this, and I'll third do this. And then in this blue section here, I basically talk about the first, second, and third bit. I don't say first, second, and third, but each sentence is ultimately just what we learned. Right, but if you do want to really try and get that first, if you do want to show the reader that you are, you know, a critical thinker, you can add a little spice to your conclusion by sort of looking towards the future on your subject, on your discourse. So an example sentence may be, if a future study was conducted, then more research should be done on this. All right, so I hope some of the tips I shared in this video that helped me can also help you. And that's it, all right? It's been your boy Abhay, a YouTube addict trying to do YouTube things. All right, if you made it to the end of this video, and if you haven't already, make sure that you destroy that like button, all right? Make sure that you comment something stupid in the comment section, something silly, something maybe that you learned. If you've got any advice on essays, pop it there as well. And then subscribe to the madness that is this channel. I'm going to be posting weekly, all right, from now onwards. So subscribe. And I'll see you next week. Peace.